welcome, BuildBrew.com here, bringing you Sultai Control deck tech. A friend of mine a week and something ago won our local tournament, which was about events, standards events for our yearly multi-format league. It was a small tournament, but because I know that he's very well known in our local circuit for really fun deck tuning, even for established archetypes, especially for established archetypes. So I thought that I would elaborate on the deck. I also run this deck at the moment at my local store and also at the bigger events outside my city. I initially jumped onto Sultai ramp, the one Aliantrazi ran at Washington DC at the Star City Open there, but then we saw Blue-Black Control basically winning a couple of GPs, and then Sultai Control winning the last standard GP in Memphis. But week from week, those deck compositions and Sultai Control in particular has been tuned a little bit here and there all the time. So we don't really see Rakshasa Secret, the card that Jared Fabiana ran in his Sultai Control deck at the start of the post-Fate Reforged season. And I took at first the list that won in Memphis, but then I did some tuning, and then on top of that I did some additional tuning. Here you have your usual mana base of like one Urborg, one Temple of Mystery, the green-blue one, two Temples of Deceit, full 4 of Temple of Malady, obviously 4 of Opulent Palace, 4 Polluted Deltas, just 2 Yavimaya Coasts, 2 Islands, 3 Swamps, and 2 Llanowar Wastes. So the mana base is pretty solid, and of course you pretty much have to run 4 fetch lands in this deck because of all the Del spells. Although I did cut one, specifically Murderous Cut, because I didn't see that I could fit all 4 Hero's Downfalls and one of Murderous Cut in the deck, so I cut the cut basically. Simply because I didn't see enough room and I wanted the 4th Hero's Downfall. What my friend ran at our event was something close to this list, with a few exceptions. Like he had only 3 Downfalls and 1 Murderous Cut. He had only 1 Kiora, the Crushing Wave, and 3 Ashioks main deck. Apart from that, that was pretty much his list. Oh, and he only, in the sideboard, he only ran 1 Drown and 1 of Perlic Ancient for the mirror. I'll come to that a bit later. And his, another of his main difference was getting 3rd Negate in the board over 4th Disdainful Stroke in the sideboard. And his really interesting innovation was having main deck Aetherspouts, because he probably wanted that kind of 3rd sweeper effect, and that card actually catches off guard so many people. It's just ridiculous how hard it is to play around that card, and the fact that pretty much none of the decks actually play it. Alright, going to spells. Sorry. So 3 Thoughtseizes I could see going down to 2 in main deck and having extra ones in the sideboard, but you probably don't want to play all 4 in main deck. Of course, the engine of the deck, the Satyr Wayfinder, the 4 of, which I think basically sticks the whole, glues the whole deck together, so it's basically glues up all the pieces and all the engines, all the other engines. And 4 of the Bile Blights. I can't imagine you playing 3 right now. so 4 seems like the correct number. It's all around good 2-man removal spell, and your mana base is more or less well tuned to play it. You have only like 2 islands in the deck and 2 Yavimaya Coasts. The rest of the lands give you access to black, so it's really easy to cast it on turn 2. And touching a little bit spoilers from Dragons of Tarkir. Okay, we have Ultimate Prize being reprinted in the next set, but I think I would still want to play for the first few weeks. Stay just with 4 Bile Blight. The decks which don't run that many multicolored creatures and so on are the basically green devotion or red green monsters or decks like that, or Timor mid-range. Those decks don't really have that many multicolored creatures, but you pretty much want to have Bile Blight still. It's okay. In the metagame full of green devotion decks and Timor and so on, and less of Abs and aggro or other decks which we saw at the start of the season, Ultimate Prize is still good against red, white, and Mardu to some extent if they don't play Butcher of the Horde, because most of all of their other creatures are still single colored. Single color. Pardon me that. Sleep of a ton. So I don't know. I feel like you could play 1, but that's pretty much about it. Maybe you would go up to 2, depending on how the metagame shapes up, but right now it's pretty hard to predict how it goes. We have a bunch of basically playable multicolored dragons, so I'm not sure. So I might put in 1 over 1 Bile Blight, but that it is for now. And then you have your 2 Ashioks, which is pretty much awesome in almost every matchup. Against Mono-Red you might set it out, or you might actually keep it in so that you get a creature from them, and then you can get it into play and jump block or trade with some of their small guys. And for Hero's Downfall, in my list, 2 Kioras, 3 Sultai Charms, which is absurdly good right now. It has so many important things like Citadel Siege, Outpost Siege, Chain to Drugs, which is actually kind of bad against us, but still occasionally you would break it, I guess. Especially if they don't side it out. Well, you probably don't side out your Sultai Charms against red-white, which plays Chain to the Rocks, and you probably would bring in some of your creatures, some of your big boom booms. So if they happen to keep Chain to the Rocks in the deck, then you have something to hedge against it. And of course against Jeskai tokens is an awesome card as well, hitting quite a few things. And of course against whip decks it's ridiculously good, and especially right now against the green-white devotion that break out of the GP Miami. So that this thing kills so many important things in their deck, like Banishing Light and Master of the Unseen and Courser, and any surprises they might have after sideboard. Of course your 2 sweepers plus the Aetherspouts, so Crux of Fate. Sometimes you may want to go up to 3 of them, I'm not sure, it depends on the metagame. Generically speaking, you would probably just play 2. And then I grouped in here 2 Disdainful Strokes, 1 Aetherspout and Treasure Cruise, because I recently found out with the help of some lists on Magic Online that some builds actually went cutting all of these kind of cards from the deck and just ran main deck for Dissolves, basically making it more of the blue-black control with a bit of a splash. So of course the blue-black control runs 4 of each of those, 4 strokes and 4 dissolves. But in this deck, you don't have space for both, and I think it's much better to run dissolves over the strokes. It doesn't tie your mana a whole lot, okay, it's 1 mana more, but you can counter any card. And seriously guys, how many times you actually died because you couldn't counter in the first game that pesky lightning strike from Jeskai Temple or Jeskai tokens or red white? So you could counter the Stoke, but they just kill you with a lightning strike or something like that, and then you can't do anything. Of course you have Negate and a sideboard, but that's pretty much about it. Then of course you have your heavy hitters, 4 of Dig for Time, and then your main win conditions, 1 Garruk Apex Predator and 2 Ugin the Spirit Dragon. I've seen some lists running a second Garruk in the sideboard, or a third Ugin, or just run 2 Garruks in main deck. It all varies, but I think the default, the starting point is still just 2 Ugins, 1 Garruk, and you don't really need more because you still have Kiora and Ashiok, so you have your win conditions, and you can always bring more after your sideboard if you feel like you need more pressure or just more win conditions so that you don't deck yourself or something like that, especially in the mirror when a lot of your win conditions will get downfalled or countered or anything. Right, moving on to sideboard. The consensus is the 4 extra counters in the board, whether it's 2 additional Disdainful Strokes and just 2 negates, or 3 and 1 like I do. And I think if I would switch to 4 dissolves main deck, I would probably just keep in, I don't know, maybe just 1 stroke in the board and 3 negates, but definitely keep in 3 negates. Maybe cutting the stroke because dissolve would basically hedge me against everything, and then it would up my count of counter spells in the main up to 4. So that could free up an extra sideboard slot, and of course usual drawn and serve. So a week ago I ran here one of Perlic Ancient. It's basically your best card in the mirror. Against any control deck it's awesome, but I feel like it's a bit more important to have the second drawn in the deck. Maybe I would put a Perlic Ancient instead of this Disdainful Stroke here. I don't know, but I definitely do want to draw and serve, especially since 2 mono red aggro decks or red deck win stacks were in top 8 of Grand Prix Miami. So then 2 of Pharika Cures, that's also the consensus for the sideboard for this deck. 2 of the Tasigur, which you bring in almost any matchup. You basically transform your deck so you become more of a mid-range deck with more threats post board, because against control you want Tasigur, against beatdown decks you want Tasigur, against mono red decks, against mid-range decks. So you pretty much board it in almost all the time. Liliana is here for those slow mid-range for control decks. And then come the interesting things. You used to have Rakshasa Death Dealer in Jared's Fabiano list, and he also ran Feed the Clan, but many of the people cut it. And Rakshasa Death Dealer been interesting card, but I wasn't really impressed by it, so it wasn't really a very well adjusted decision. And I think Reaper is just better. It doesn't die that easily against all the red decks. You can still like chain to the Roxette, but they would probably side it out against us, against this deck. So Reaper is kind of our Siege Rhino or extra Tasigur. You can call it any way you like, but it makes the 2 Feed the Clan in the sideboards much better. You basically bring in 4 big guys, which make Feed the Clan a decent sideboard cards, and I really do like it against all the red decks. Against Jessica, against Red White, against Timur or Red Green with a bunch of flyers and some burn like Crater's Claws. So you could, I don't know, you probably wouldn't bring it in against red green monsters. So basically green devotion deck splashing red. So they don't have absurd amount of burn, and you would have your counters, whether it's Stroke, Negate, or Dissolve. So it's not that ridiculous. But against all other tempo or red decks, you would want it. You would definitely want to fit the clan. It's just so good. Like 2 mana at instant speed, gain 10. It's really worth it, especially with this sideboard. If it would be like Reckless Death Dealer in the sideboard instead of Reaper of the Wilds, I don't think you would even consider playing Fit the Clan. But yeah, it's a big body. It's much better than Death Dealer in the sense that you don't have to keep your mana up all the time so that you could play around things or keep your Death Dealer alive in case something bad happens. And Death Touch is a nice ability, but okay, like it gets Hexproof for 2 mana. It's sort of like keeping 2 mana up to regenerate your guy with Death Dealer, but it's just much more impressive. Like Death Dealer matches up so badly against opposing Siege Rhinos, and Reaper just blocks it all the time. Unless they have like Absent Charm or something, but then you can keep 1 black up and give Ripa Death Touch and trade with the Rhino or something like that. So I really like that. Before I go to a bit of a sideboard plan for this deck, I want to mention some other cards from upcoming set, Dragons of Tarkir, which I think could be viable in this deck. So I already mentioned Ultimate Price, which could supplement some of the Bile Blights. You could run a split like 2-2 or something like that, or 3-1. But then the Silumgar's command is really interesting me. I could definitely see it running over, say, like Aetherspouts or one of the 3 mana removal spells or something like that, or just somewhere in this space. All the modes are really good for this deck. I know it costs 5 mana, but it's still an instant, and it's so flexible. It gives you so many options. You can basically just run as a one-off, and it would never be really that terrible. All the modes are very useful in this type of deck. Maybe in let's say like Sultai Whip, the modes on that card wouldn't be great, but so far I really love that card. But I don't feel like right now you would want to test more than 1 copy of it in your deck. Then of course the new CDC, the Vizier, the zombie CDC. It's not as good in this deck as it's in CDC Whip. So in the more of a creature heavy Whip Erebos CDC kind of deck, it's awesome because you can whip it back, get value. And as some of the streamers slash content producers like from channel Verbal mentioned that, yeah, you could just now fetch your Whip of Erebos and you wouldn't have to run that many copies of it because you would have a tutor for it, which is also all around good value creature, like a 4/5 Death Touch, pretty much always good. And you just in that deck sacrifice like I don't know, a Carotid or Satyr Wayfinder and get immediate value. Then also the actual dragon, I mean the new Silumgar. Some of the decks, some of the builds of Sultai Control have been running in the sideboards the one of the Silumgar, the Drifting Daff. So the Drifted is kind of good in this deck, depending on the metagame. You see a lot of token-oriented decks and big amounts of red decks, or big amounts of decks that run a lot of Ash Cloud Phoenixes and so on. So yeah, it could be good. It is also good against Abzan aggro, actually, if you manage to stabilize before that and then play it on more or less empty board. And the new dragon is really interesting. Okay, of course it ties to all removal. It doesn't have hexproof like the dragon which we had from Fate Reforged, the version of that version of Silumgar. But it's still good. You have your counters, ideally dissolves in this space and then more in the sideboard, so you could technically protect it, and if it dies, like, so be it. It's not gonna be a tragedy, but if they break on the removal for it, then it can take over the game so easily. I mean, Silumgar is also like something that which would die so easily because of all the removals, but you don't care. Okay, Silumgar quite often in this deck would cost you just 1 mana to cast, but so what? And also important factor that if a lot of people would switch to ultimate prices over some number of Bile Blights, okay, they would keep their downfalls, but then still run things like Sultai Charm, which is also kind of an ultimate price kind of card, because one of them is also just to kill a monocolored creature. Then multicolored dragons like the new Silumgar would have more value, and also creatures out of the sideboard like Reapers and Death Dealers as well. Yeah, basically against a whole lot of decks, you would bring in Reapers and Silumgars, or Tasigurs, sorry, and then against most of the decks you would bring some number of counters. Of course, Drowns is mainly for all the token decks or mono red, and Feed the Clan is also for all the red decks. You don't need it anywhere else. Liliana is, as I said, only for slower matchups. Pharika is Kiora, so you have a lot of Fangs for fast red decks. But Tasigurs and Reapers you would pretty much bring in like in almost every matchup, and then take out maybe a cruise, maybe some number of digs if it's a fast matchup. If it's like against Blue-Black Control, you would just take out Bile Blights and probably Sultai Charms, but you would keep in downfalls because they probably would bring their Tasigur, they would probably bring extra Ashioks or extra Ugin, so you would want to have something that kills a Planeswalker or a creature, that's for sure. So you would bring in extra counters against them, and all the negates come in against most of the non-mono red decks. Alright, that's it, folks. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was informative. Moving on, I think this deck is still pretty solid, and it has so much space for tuning. You can basically tune it for any kind of metagame and do well with it. This was quite extended deck tag, but I wanted to mention all the nuances of the deck, so you don't have to wonder what do you have to do with this deck and how do you want to address shifts in the metagame. Okay, don't forget to subscribe, press the like button and so on. Check out the website. I really do appreciate all the support and all the attention and help and feedback. Okay, until later, bye.